So, what's going on with all these protests you've probably been seeing? From Washington, D.C., all the way to Rome, literally thousands of people are taking to the streets. Today, we're going to use a report from ABC News to really break down this global wave of protest against the Trump administration. We'll look at who's marching, where they're marching, and maybe most importantly, why. And look, the sheer scale of this is, well, it's massive. We're not just talking about one city here. This is a global movement. You've got thousands of people hitting the streets in cities all over the world. It creates this incredibly powerful image, right? It's a message you just can't ignore. All right, so let's get into the specifics. Where exactly is all this happening? I mean, you'd probably guess the big coastal cities, right? But the map of these protests tells a way more interesting story. It's spreading into some pretty unexpected places. Just look at this list. The variety is pretty wild. Of course, you've got the international hotspots like Paris and Rome, and obviously the political heart of it all in DC. But the report also points out places like Minneapolis. And what's really telling is that protests are even popping up in Republican strongholds. We're talking Texas and Florida. This shows you it's definitely not just a coastal thing. And this isn't a one-and-done kind of thing. The report actually points out that this is the third major No Kings protest in America. That slogan, by the way, is all about pushing back against what demonstrators see as executive overreach. And it seems like with every protest, the atmosphere gets more and more charged. The tension is really ramping up. Okay, so when you see this happening all over the globe, it begs the question, what's driving all of this? Why are so many people marching? And the answer isn't simple. It's not just one thing. As we're about to see, it's actually a whole tangled web of grievances that's getting people out there. Yeah, this really gives you a sense of just how many different reasons people are upset. A big one right at the top is the call for impeachment over what they call an expansion of executive power. But look at what else is on the list. You've got immigration policies, the handling of the Epstein files, the rising cost of living, the war in Iran. It's all of these things kind of merging together into one massive, complicated protest. But lists of policies and political talking points, they only tell you so much. To really get what makes someone drop everything and go march in the street, you gotta look at the personal side of it. The report managed to capture a voice from the crowd that really puts a human face on this whole thing. Listen to this. One protester, someone who said they even marched against the Vietnam War, really put it into perspective. For this person, it's not about just one policy they disagree with. It's much, much bigger. It feels like a historic duty, a fight to, and I'm quoting here, save this country for their grandkids. They're worried about the entire American experiment failing. So with all this energy, all these people, all this organization, you have to ask the big question. Does any of it actually work? Will it make a real difference? That's what we're going to get into next. And here's where you really see the divide crystal clear. On one side, you have the White House view, which is reportedly called these Hate America demonstrations. But then you have the journalistic analysis, which points to a totally different take. With the midterms coming up, the thinking is that politicians would be smart to pay attention to this. The message is pretty clear. Ignore these massive crowds at your own peril. So, where does that leave us? It really boils down to this fundamental question, especially in a nation that's so divided. When one person's protest is seen as another person's hate, what does it actually take for a voice to cut through the noise and truly be heard? That's really the challenge at the very heart of this entire story.